Fantasy Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all for listening to the O'Reilly Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Tim Sestito. Alongside me, as always, is Kevin King. And today we are joined by our special guest, James King, coming in from the Buffalo area there. James might be switching allegiance to the Buffalo Bills because the Giants are an abomination to watch. I mean, we're looking at the waiver wire here. Jalen Hyatt got the boot. Daniel Jones, that's a team name right there. Got the boot. It is not Brayton Giants land, as we all know. Just doing a little waiver recap there. We're seeing Danny Dimes on the waiver, available for pickup.
James, welcome aboard.
Anyone can have Danny at this point. I don't think anyone's going to pick him up anytime soon. So,
no, I don't blame you. Thanks for coming in here. I was just looking at it. The intro just kept flowing off the tongue, and I just kind of kept rolling with it. Appreciate you being here, James. Wanted to kind of just touch base with you, see, what are your thoughts to the start of the 2023 fantasy football season, month in?
It's been a rough start for me personally so far, but it's still early, Don't count me out yet. I think there's a lot of weeks left to play, and you never know what can happen. You never know.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of fantasy football. It can turn around at any time. You never know what's going to happen week to week. So doing just a little waiver recap here. Looks like the high ticket player here for City Dogs going for Jaleel McLaughlin, the Denver running back, who we all know so well, obviously, but a nice little day there, 7 for 72, and a receiving touchdown, over 100 yards. If we look at some of the fab offers here, my dad was in on him. He was in on him big. Bill made a good bet there.
Yeah, I love a good waiver bid, that's great. Honestly, I think Bill's looking for some, mid-season magic right now. But I think his team, we'll talk about it, but I think his team is strong. I don't think he needs the midseason magic from a random waiver.
I think he is getting exceptionally unlucky so far this season. Michael Wilson, the Arizona wide receiver. I don't know how the Giants came back in that game, by the way, given how the rest of the season's shaken out. Buzzsaw just narrowly outbid me there. Detroit defense, but it wasn't a big waiver week. It was kind of guys here. Though Kev, a little Jerry Jeudy drop action.
Yeah, late in the game, I forgot to check the waivers. I just I don't think that he's going to be. I mean, I could be eating my words, but I don't think that he's going to be much better than Josh Reynolds. I think maybe Daily News had Josh Reynolds, and I just think the Lions' offense is a little bit more explosive. So I want to just see. I don't know. You take a flyer on these guys. Everybody knows the game.
I'm gonna put a request to pick that guy, to pick Jerry up as we speak. But I don't have any money because I put it all on Kareem Hunt. So, there's a good chance I don't get him.
You're in the very interesting position where you're out of money. You're the lowest scoring team in the league. You just dropped your starting quarterback, which is where your name is based on. And
you dropped your backup quarterback, and then dropped the guy that you picked up, Joshua Dobbs, and then picked up another quarterback. So you're kind of flicking back and forth here, James. I don't know what's going on with you and your team.
It's been tough. I rode high on the Giants, and it's not paying off for me so far.
Yeah,
well, exciting.
You live and die with your boys. I mean, I guess you could always secondarily fall back on the Bills until I'm in the tank for Caleb as of now for the Giants. Like, don't win another game the rest of the season. Let's do a little recap here of the week. I think there's one game we got to talk about here. It's City Dogs versus Narco, and this was a nail biter. This is, I think, the closest game we've had so far this season.
At least the closest one that was a shootout. I mean, both teams scoring exceptionally well. I was watching that Jet game, and I said, there's no chance that Billy loses. He's got Kelsey and the Kansas City defense, but Mahomes had one of his worst games I can remember. And and my dad just held on there.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson had the best game of his career, which you don't necessarily expect against a defense like Kansas City. But yeah, your dad getting seems like every week it's just one of his guys is going off for 40 points.
Yeah, if you look at the highest scoring players, the two highest scoring running backs are on his team, and one of them is Mostert, who he just doesn't play. I think he's in his lineup for this week. We could take a look at it next, but if you show the bench players, I think Mostert had a down week this week, but still, I mean, he's just got he just has a guy that keeps on firing. So I don't know.
There's a good chance Narco could go through the bye weeks and just keep the same roster rolling and get some wins. I wouldn't put it past Narco to just keep the guys in.
Shockingly, he already updated it. I spoke to him today, and he didn't know that he updated it. So I didn't help him with it. It's updated. He didn't realize he did it.
Interesting. But yeah, Narco on 4-0 through the first month. I'm guessing he's warm. Uncle Dan's warming up to fantasy football a little bit.
Yeah, I think you could say that.
Yeah, helps when you get up to that kind of a start here. And then let's go in the opposite spectrum here. The biggest blowout of the week. Night had been a monster, one of the monsters there. And you did call it. This was your blowout of the week here, and oh boy, what a stinky doo-doo from Night.
I just had a feeling, although I think I was under the impression your dad was going to play Dak Prescott. So my feeling was a little bit off. He played Justin Fields, who for fantasy purposes had a great game, but. Yeah, that's the thing with Joe's team. I mean, he's waiting on a lot of guys to come back, and I think he was he even said it when he came on. He was riding high for the amount of injuries he's had, but he's got Kupp on the bench, he's got Eckler on the bench. He's got a ton of injuries, so it's eventually going to come back and bite you in the butt.
What's the update on Kupp? Is he coming back to?
He's apparently designated to return, so he might come. I don't think it's this week, but he might be coming back. I mean, and Yahoo's got him projected for 20 points. I mean, Cooper Kupp coming back, it's going to make a Puka Nacua a little more difficult there for me to be using. But yeah, my dad, he finally, I feel like we've been saying for weeks, it's the rosters, right? They've my dad, he's always seemed to be in it, but it's getting the roster construction right. And this week he did, minus Luke Musgrave, who I think got injured on like the second play of the game or whatever. But just absolute monster week from my dad there. Stephon Diggs, Justin Fields finally performing for the first time all season against a Swiss cheese defense. One of the things I did want to notice here, if you look right now at team in 5th, 6th, and 7th place, there are 2 points differentiating between us, which is pretty insane when you think about it. Getting it that close down to the wire there, and we'll come back here and we'll take a look at Craigo here, getting his first win of the season, another outstanding true return to form performance here, carried by Josh Allen and Nico Collins. You get 80 from 2 players. It's tough to beat you that week.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of 40-point games this year. A lot of teams every week are getting a guy that's putting up 40.
Yeah, it's a lot of big points so far this season. Baltimore defense getting you 24 is going to do it. And Mike put up a good effort here. But he's also in this position where the Colts have designated Jonathan Taylor to return here, so he might be getting a big upgrade. And Saquon Barkley can ever return to the field. That's another big upgrade. But Devin Achane holding the line just fine. You put him in, you're hoping he somehow comes close to 57 points, but you'll take 27 points any day of the week.
Yeah. Very, very impressive showing by Achane, and he's in the same boat as Joe. He's got his 2 biggest hitters sitting on the bench. So if you could survive the early rounds, make a late push for the playoffs with those guys coming back, you're in good shape.
And him and Joe have both been, weathering that storm, I feel, fairly well. So it's not been too bad. In the featherweight division of a battle here, Sean's Inheritance and James, going into your team here, your highest scoring guy was Adam Thielen, which I don't think you projected when you drafted your roster.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, I drafted those guys as being a big combo because I really expected Darren Waller to just get almost all the targets towards his way, but they haven't even looked at him at all. And yeah, the Giants been looking real bad. So it set me back a bit, but we're making changes. And wait, who had Montgomery?
David Montgomery?
It was the last one we were just looking at.
That's on Craig's team, right?
Yeah. So I'm hoping Gibbs can get some more touches, but it seems like the Lions don't really want to give it to him because Montgomery got all the touches.
He had 3 touchdowns, 121 rushing yards. Yeah, you need Gibbs to start getting more work there for you. He was one of the anchors of your team here. I don't know, with Cleveland, Deshaun Watson was out and they had some nobody at quarterback, so that makes the whole game more difficult. Mike Evans getting injured early in the game makes it a tough week, and especially with a guy like Amari Cooper, right, where it's like, oh, we got a backup quarterback in here. Sloan's team, he's battling out wins here. Sean's Inheritance, keeping himself afloat in the early part of this season.
Derrick Henry had a big week.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Derrick Henry and Justin Herbert are, the 2 carries of this team here. But he's fighting along here, winning there. Kev, I had projected you to be the blowout of the week, and I was completely wrong. No, your team put up a nice win against one of the perceived juggernauts of the league.
Yeah, I think I got lucky. I think his team just slowed down at the right time. Because he's the second highest scoring team in the league. I think I got lucky. But I don't know. I just keep on getting production out of my top guy, Justin Jefferson. Jordan Love has been stable. And then I just been having another guy rotate in there, whether that's the defense or my tight end. I'm just getting 3 guys to put up points. But my running back situation is dire.
Thinking about making a trade?
I don't know. I got an offer from Sean's Inheritance. I don't want to disclose the contents of the trade, but let's just say 2 out of 3 of them were dropped on the waiver wire this week by him. So it wasn't a great offer. But that's the way it goes. It's early in the season. You try and take advantage. But I might have to make a big trade because my running backs are tragic.
Yeah, I mean, Najee finally gave you a workable, 11 points. You take it, right? It just chugs you along here.
I'll take that. It's the first time I've had a running back get me over 10.
Yeah, I mean, you take those any day of the week there. But I think Joe Burrow's kind of been Jordan Love's been a fine replacement, but Joe Burrow's got to be absolutely killing you.
Yeah, I think it's hurting Narco a little bit more because Jamar Chase was Narco's keeper. And that was supposed to be the extra depth. Now, could you imagine if Joe Burrow plays 50% better, what that would mean for Narco's depth in his team? You know what I mean? So for me, I mean, Jordan Love is a fine replacement. I'm hoping Joe Burrow turns it around, but I have no problem cutting a guy.
No, you cut Jerry Jeudy. You got no problem taking any of these guys out here. Also, Uncle Chris with the odd, Justice Hill over Breece Hall. I guess I get it because the Jets have been kind of tragic, and DK Metcalf over Josh Palmer. It's taking a big gamble. It wasn't a big point swing there, but I'm kind of surprised to see that. But I think he had that injury designation going into Monday, which probably made him more hesitant. And then the last matchup of the week here was my performance against the Buzzsaw, and for the first time all season, my squad pretty much came together outside of T. Higgins.
Yeah, you I think you got finally what you were asking for. Josh Jacobs turned up nice. Kamara came off the 4-game suspension and or 3-game suspension, whatever it was, knocked off some rust after a week back. And Puka Nakua taking a gamble on the waiver wire week 1. The guy is like the number 3 wide receiver. So you get lucky with this stuff, Tim, and maybe it'll just keep churning out for you. Even Zach Ertz, who's supposed to be washed up and dead, and on Arizona has been, a top 8 tight end. So you're
I'll take 11.3 points from the tight end every day of the week because that position is garbage and it should be removed and be a wide receiver tight end flex position. So that way poor Pat over here doesn't have to, reach for Kyle Pitts and have a hope and a prayer.
Dangerous combo. Kamara coming back and Josh Jacobs getting going. I think the league should be on watch right now because that is a dangerous combination.
And you got
Pacheco with 30, DJ Moore with 27. My team had a good week this week. A little shallow at running back here, but definitely.
You have Kamara, Jacobs, and Pacheco.
But I'm one injury away from it, being a house of cards, and I got to start Dalvin Cook, who is potential.
You sound like Uncle Bob right now.
All right, well, it's in my DNA technically, so give me a little bit of a break there. You got a nice performance from Wilson and Bijan bounced back, but ultimately the Lions were just dogged the Packers so hard that Aaron Jones was pretty much out of the game, and Javonte Williams, I believe, got hurt pretty early on in that Bears game there, so that makes it tricky to hope and see there. But
he's still trotting out that dead body, Kyle Pitts.
Listen, but we know one thing about Buzzsaw. He's devoted to his guys. He holds firm and believes in his boys. And Kyle Pitts was like the 7th overall draft pick or something. There is that pedigree there, but yeah, it's been a rough go on having Kyle Pitts in there, and then just another reason to extinguish the tight end position and make it a wide receiver tight end flex. So looking ahead here to week 5, we got some exciting matchups. We got the O'Reilly brothers facing off here. Looks like it's going to be a tight one there. We got Craigo, James, Uncle Chris, my dad, Uncle Bob, Narco, and Night Night, me and Billy, and then Sean's Inheritance versus the Bolsheviks. Those King boys sitting 1 and 2 on the top of the leaderboard right now.
Yeah, but we round out nicely with James just securely sitting at 12th. So I think we average around 6. If there's 3 of us, so. I think this coming week is going to be interesting because we finally have buys. So some teams have to change it up a little bit, and this is where the depth really comes into play. So, I'm curious to see how it's going to play out across the league.
Yeah, what is it? It's like Seattle, Cleveland, Tampa, I think, the Chargers. There's like 4 teams or something on buy. I can't remember offhand the list. Offhand the list there. So James, this is where we do our segment on a blowout of the week. What do you see? What do you say? What do you think?
I don't know about blowout, but I think Narco versus Night Night is gonna be closer than the projection seem. But for blowout, I think the Bolshevik Billies are gonna get blown out this week pretty bad.
You think the Bolshevik Billies are gonna get blown out this week by Sean's Inheritance there?
The running back department, I think it's been weak, and I think it's gonna get weaker. And after this week, Kev's gonna be looking for a big trade, and I'm here for you if you want to maybe set something up.
Yeah, you're the league's farm system, so I know you're available.
You could just wait 2 weeks and the guy will be on waivers. So I you don't need to make a trade with him there. Interesting pick there. I think this will be a close battle, close bout. Kev, what about you?
I'm gonna go with City Dogs, taking out the XL Nazis. I don't think that respectfully, I don't think Tim, your team is going to be able to produce a 165er 2 weeks in a row. Although, now looking at your lineup, I do like the depth. Now that you're getting the performance from Jacobs and Kamara, like your team looks solid. But I think it's this is less about you. It's more about City Dogs. I think City Dogs is going to break through the line and get a win with his team because he's been just consistently putting up good points.
Yeah, Billy right now is the he's looking out on the playoffs right now, but he's he's the third highest points in the league, and he's got the most points against him. And this is coming from a guy who had the highest scoring team ever play in the over 10 years of this team week one. So Billy's been facing some real juggernauts there. Like the pick there. Let's see. I'm gonna take the easy fish here. I'm saying Craig blowing out Jimbo. I think Jimbo's got his roster in a little bit of disarray right now.
I do have some big guys on bye too.
You got some guys on bye there. Not even starting Darren Waller this week. I mean, yeah, like 3 of his starters on bye this week. That's tough news. And Craig's team finally got a rhythm going. I think he carries it on and takes it up to 2 and 3.
I respect the pick. I also think that Craig will probably win that game. But I don't know. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is due for a big game, and I like Jordan Addison. I think that Kirk Cousins know how to sling it, and I think James is gonna have a bounce back game. I think it'll be closer than a blowout.
Fair enough. I always go last, so I only have 4 games to pick from instead of 6. So sometimes you just gotta lock and load and make your pick there. But that should do it for everything here. Anything else you boys want to touch on before we wrap this episode up?
No, I think we're looking good. This is a good season. Everybody's pretty engaged. I think there's only like 2 teams that haven't even made a move on the waivers, maybe even one.
It's only Narco.
Okay.
And Craig's only made 1 move.
Narco and Craig. So, everybody's engaged and yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, that's what we like to see, bringing the league back together. Thank you all so much for listening. James, you got any final thoughts? How did you enjoy being on the podcast?
Great podcast. I hope maybe I can get back sometime, maybe even just some interviews on the side. But yeah, it's been great. Definitely bringing the family and bringing the O'Reilly fantasy football back. So this podcast has been great.
Right. Well, thank you all so much for listening today, and we will see you next week.
Adios.